The day she walked down that aisle, there was no music, just silence. The kind of silence that screams louder than any objection ever could. Because everyone in that room knew the truth. The man waiting at the altar? He wasn't supposed to be hers. He belonged to someone else first. Her best friend. The woman who trusted her with everything. And as she stood there in that white dress, hands trembling, bouquet shaking, one thought kept circling her mind like a vulture. What have I done? What she didn't know then, what none of them knew, was that this wedding would haunt her for the rest of her life. That the vows she was about to make would become the chains she could never escape. This is the story of a woman who thought she found love, but discovered something far more painful. Regret. And it all started with a friendship that should have lasted forever. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button, like and share so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Claire and Lena met in college, sophomore year, during a psychology class neither of them wanted to take. They sat next to each other by accident, bonded over terrible cafeteria coffee, and by the end of that semester, they were inseparable. Claire was the quiet one, the thinker, the girl who noticed everything but said little. Lena was her opposite, bold, magnetic, the kind of person who could light up a room just by walking into it. They balanced each other perfectly. After graduation, they moved to the same city, shared an apartment for 3 years, went on road trips, celebrated birthdays, cried through breakups together. They were more than friends. They were sisters. When Lena met Mark at a work conference, Claire was the first person she called. "I think I just met my husband," Lena had said, laughing but serious. Mark was charming, successful, the kind of man who knew how to make you feel like the only person in the room. Claire was happy for her, genuinely happy. She was even Lena's maid of honor at their wedding. She stood beside her best friend, held her flowers, watched her say "I do," and meant every word of her toast to a love that lasts forever. But forever, as it turns out, is a lot shorter than anyone thinks. And sometimes, the people you trust the most are the ones who break you in ways you never see coming. It didn't start with a kiss. It didn't even start with a touch. It started with a conversation, a normal one. Claire had stopped by Lena and Mark's place to drop off some books. Lena was out of town for work, a 3-day conference she'd been stressing about for weeks. Mark answered the door, still in his work clothes, tie loosened, looking tired. "You want some coffee?" he asked. She said yes. They sat at the kitchen table, talked about nothing important at first. Work, the weather, how Lena was doing. Then somehow, the conversation shifted. He started talking about feeling invisible, about how Lena was always busy, always distracted, always chasing the next promotion. "I love her," he said quietly, "but I don't think she sees me anymore." Claire didn't know what to say, so she just listened. And that became the pattern. Lena traveled more. Mark called more. At first, it was just texts. "Hey, thanks for listening the other day." Then it became longer messages, late-night phone calls. "I don't have anyone else I can talk to like this." Claire told herself it was harmless, that she was just being a good friend to both of them. But deep down, somewhere she didn't want to look, she knew it was more than that. She started noticing things. The way her heart would skip when his name appeared on her phone, the way she'd replay their conversations in her head before falling asleep. The way she started putting on makeup before going over to their house, even when Lena was supposed to be there. One night, Mark showed up at her apartment unannounced. Lena had cancelled another dinner. He looked broken. She let him in. They talked for hours, and then, just for a second, their eyes met in a way that wasn't accidental. He leaned in. She didn't pull away. But just before their lips touched, his phone rang. Lena's name flashed on the screen. He pulled back, apologized, left. Claire sat on her couch for 2 hours, staring at nothing, feeling everything. That should have been the end of it. That should have been the moment she walked away. But it wasn't. Because a week later, He came back. And this time, there was no phone call to stop them. If you are still here, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button, like and share, so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. For 6 months, they lived in the shadows. Stolen moments in hotel rooms on the other side of town. Deleted text threads. Fake excuses. Claire stopped going to dinners with Lena. Stopped answering her calls as quickly. Stopped looking her in the eye. Every time Lena said, "I miss you," Claire felt something inside her crack a little more. But she didn't stop. Because when she was with Mark, everything else disappeared. The guilt, the shame, the voice in her head screaming that this was wrong. He made her feel seen in a way no one ever had. He told her things he said he'd never told anyone. That he'd been unhappy for years. That Lena had changed. That maybe, just maybe, they were meant to find each other. And Claire, God help her, believed him. She let herself believe that love could justify anything. That if it felt this right, it couldn't be that wrong. But every time she saw Lena's name on her phone, her stomach twisted. Every time Lena posted a picture of the two of them smiling together, Claire wanted to scream. Because she knew she was destroying the one person who had never done anything but love her. One Friday night, Lena texted her, "I'm coming home early. Want to grab dinner tomorrow?" Claire stared at the message. Her hands started shaking. She was supposed to meet Mark that night, at his place, while Lena was supposed to be out of town until Sunday. She didn't respond. She went anyway. They were in the living room when they heard the key turn in the lock. The door opened, and there she was, Lena, suitcase in hand, eyes moving from Claire to Mark, to the wine glasses on the table, to the way they were sitting too close. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then Lena's face changed. Not into anger, into something worse. Understanding. Lena didn't yell. She didn't cry. Not at first. She just stood there, staring, like she was trying to solve a puzzle she didn't want the answer to. Claire's mouth opened, but nothing came out. What could she possibly say? Mark stood up, started to speak. "Lena, I can explain." She held up a hand. "Don't." Her voice was calm, too calm. She looked at Claire. "How long?" Claire's throat closed. "Lena, please." "How long, Claire?" 6 months. The words came out like a confession at a funeral. Lena nodded slowly, like she'd suspected but hoped she was wrong. She turned to Mark. "And you? Were you ever going to tell me? Or were you just going to keep lying until I figured it out myself?" He said nothing. Lena laughed. A hollow, bitter sound. "You know what's funny? I came home early because I missed you. Because I wanted to surprise you." She looked at Claire again, and this time, there were tears. But not sad ones. Angry ones. "You were my best friend. I would have died for you." Claire felt her own tears start. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to." "You never meant for this to what?" Lena's voice cracked. "To hurt me? To destroy everything? You think that makes it better?" She grabbed her suitcase, turned toward the door, then stopped. "You can have him, Claire, but you'll never have peace." She walked out. The door closed, and the silence that followed was the loudest thing Claire had ever heard. Mark tried to hold her. She pushed him away. "What did we just do?" she whispered. He didn't answer, because they both knew. They had just blown up the life of someone they both claimed to love. And there was no going back. 1 year later, they got married. It wasn't the wedding Claire had imagined as a little girl. There were no bridesmaids, no crowded reception. No one threw rice or cheered or cried happy tears. It was just the two of them, a judge, and 2 strangers pulled in as witnesses. Mark wore a grey suit. Claire wore a dress she bought online the week before. When the judge said, "You may kiss the bride," It felt more like a formality than a celebration. Because the truth was, neither of them felt like they'd won anything. They'd just survived. The first few months were okay. They told themselves they were happy. They moved into a new apartment, far from anyone who knew the story. They cooked dinners together, watched movies, tried to build something that felt normal. But normal never came. Because the foundation they were building on was rotten. Mark started drinking more. Not every night, but enough that Claire noticed. He'd sit on the couch with a glass of whiskey, scrolling through his phone, barely speaking. One night, she asked him what he was thinking about. He looked at her, and for just a second, she saw it. Regret. He didn't say it, but she felt it. They started fighting. Small things at first. Who forgot to pick up groceries? Why he was late coming home? Then bigger things. Why don't you trust me? Claire asked one night after he accused her of texting someone. He stared at her. You really want me to answer that? It hit her like a slap. She'd become the woman he cheated with. And now, he was waiting for her to do the same. Because if she could betray Lena, why wouldn't she betray him? The irony was suffocating. She'd thought marrying him would fix everything, that it would prove their love was real. But all it did was trap them both in a cycle they couldn't escape. One night, she found him on the couch, phone in hand, staring at a photo. She leaned over his shoulder. It was Lena, smiling, happy, posted 3 hours ago. He didn't even try to hide it. He just kept staring. Claire's chest tightened. Do you still love her? He didn't answer. And that was answer enough. If you are still here, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button, like and share, so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. It happened on a Tuesday. Claire came home early from work, tired, wanting nothing more than to collapse on the couch. She opened the door and heard his voice. Low, soft, the way he used to talk to her. She froze. He was on the phone. In the bedroom, door half closed. She moved closer, her heart pounding in her chest. I miss you too, he said. There was a pause. I know it's complicated. Another pause. Then a laugh. The kind of laugh she hadn't heard from him in months. She pushed the door open. He turned, saw her, and his face went pale. I'll call you back. He hung up. Claire crossed her arms. Who was that? A friend, she laughed. A bitter, sharp sound. Don't lie to me, Mark. Don't you dare lie to me. He stood up, ran a hand through his hair. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Tell me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what I think it is. He said nothing. She felt the room tilt. Is it her? Is it Lena? No. Then who? He looked at her, and in that moment, she saw the truth. It didn't matter who it was. The damage was already done. Because once trust is broken, it doesn't heal. It just fractures in new places. She started sleeping in the guest room. They stopped talking unless they had to. The apartment became a graveyard of a marriage that never really had a chance. One night, Claire sat on the floor of the bathroom, staring at her wedding ring. She thought about the day she put it on. The way she'd convinced herself it meant something, that it erased the past, that it made them real, but it didn't. It just made her a different version of the woman she swore she'd never become. She slid the ring off, set it on the counter, and for the first time in 2 years, she felt like she could breathe. She left 3 weeks later. No big fight, no dramatic exit. She just packed her things while he was at work, left the ring on the kitchen table, and walked out. She moved into a small studio across town. It wasn't much, but it was hers. And that was enough. The first few weeks were hard. She cried a lot, slept too much, avoided mirrors because she didn't recognize the person staring back. But slowly, something shifted. She started going for walks in the morning, made coffee the way she liked it, started journaling again, something she hadn't done since college. She went to therapy, sat in that chair and finally said the words she'd been too afraid to admit. I destroyed my best friend's life. and I destroyed my own in the process. Her therapist asked her a question that changed everything. If you could go back, what would you tell yourself the night before it all started? Claire thought about it. Then she answered, I'd tell her that love built on betrayal isn't love. It's just guilt wearing a disguise. Months passed, then a year. Claire didn't try to reach out to Lena. She didn't think she had the right. But one day, she saw a post. Lena had remarried. A small ceremony. A man who looked kind. She was smiling. Really smiling. And for the first time, Claire didn't feel jealousy. She felt relief. Because Lena had moved on. She'd healed, and maybe, just maybe, that meant Claire could too. She printed an old photo of the two of them. College, arms around each other, laughing at something ridiculous. She looked at it for a long time. Then she let it go. Not by burning it, not by tearing it, just by putting it away. Some chapters don't get happy endings, but that doesn't mean the story has to end in tragedy. Sometimes, closure is just learning to forgive yourself. 2 years later, Claire was standing outside the same church where it all began. She wasn't there for a wedding. She wasn't there to see anyone. She just needed to stand there, to face it. The place where she made the worst decision of her life. The doors were open. She stepped inside. It was empty, quiet, peaceful. She sat in the back pew, the same one Lena had sat in the day Claire married Mark. She closed her eyes and let herself remember. Not the betrayal, not the lies, but the friendship. The real one. The one that existed before everything fell apart. She whispered into the silence. I'm sorry. Not because she thought Lena would hear, but because she needed to say it. Out loud. To the universe. To herself. When she stood to leave, she felt lighter. Not healed. Not forgiven. But lighter. Because regret doesn't disappear. You just learn to carry it differently. As she walked out into the sunlight, she thought about something her therapist had told her. You can't undo the past. But you can choose who you become because of it. And for the first time in years, Claire believed that. She didn't know what her future looked like, but she knew one thing. She would never again confuse loneliness for love, or guilt for commitment, or silence for peace. Some vows are meant to be broken, so we can finally make new ones. With ourselves. So let me ask you something. If you were in Claire's position, knowing everything you know now, would you have walked away the moment you felt something for him? Or would you have believed, like she did, that love could make it right? And what about Mark? Was he the villain? Or was he just as broken as everyone else? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you stand. Because stories like this, they don't have easy answers. And maybe that's the point. If this story made you feel something, if it made you think twice about trust, love, or loyalty, hit that subscribe button, like, and share. We've got more true stories coming your way. Real people, real choices, real consequences. Thanks for watching. And remember, the hardest person to forgive is often the one staring back at you in the mirror.